Right then, episode 24 of the Midnight Pod. Fuck me, that's nearly half to 52, which is obviously a year every single week. We've got, I think, the first ever Matt on the pod that isn't me. Matt Burgess from MB Customs, obviously based on the name. So you said before, we were speaking for like a fucking hour nearly, maybe about an hour before we start recording, which is why this is a late one. You found me in like December, and I found you in December as well, I suppose. And I was looking at your shit and like, this is pretty cool. Obviously custom shoe brand from up north as well. So I'm pretty fucking biased to people up north. Not been corrupted by the south like me yet. But first question, like always, who are you? What do you do? And we can dive into your story and loads of things off the back of that. And I think it'd be an interesting one.
Right, okay. So Matt, obviously, from Matt B Customs.
Yeah.
Where do I start really? So initially from Manchester, from Salford, living in Worsley. And then, just where do I start? Do you want me to go right from the very start?
Yeah, I mean, like, how old are you now?
24.
24, yeah. I mean, like, I guess go back to school, like, and then where it started to an extent. Like,
so
a bit of context, and we'll get into like the actual business.
I'd say I'm probably the least educated person you've got on the podcast, because at high school I did not do very well at all. Finished, obviously got GCSEs, but failed maths, and I used it more as a social, really, high school. And obviously that was like at the point where you're still quite young mentally. I had like parents that were like fully supportive, like always tried to, like, I had tutors and stuff, they fully like tried to help and stuff. But I just think fundamentally, I think I've got like attention deficit. Like now I've come to get a bit older. TikTok has taught me that.
100%. I felt the same.
And I just think it just didn't gel with me. We did 100-minute lessons at school, like, so we did like 3 lessons of 100 minutes. And,
oh really?
Yeah, and
that's fucking weird.
Yeah, it's just, I think my school was a bit shit as well. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it's now been taken over by the co-op, the cooperative.
Oh really?
Because it got such bad like Ofsted rules that they've had to take it over. So that tells you a little bit into like what sort of school it was. But,
legit.
But I think so basically, like, going back to high school, I didn't do very well. Always throughout high school loved like PE, anything physical, but I really love graphic design. So came from like a really like creative background. My dad's a creative. He works as like a creative engineer, so he builds like turbochargers for cars. That's like his job. And he's very creative but quite analytical. Loved graphic design. Did well in that, so I had a lot of confidence in it. Wanted to do that at college, because in my area you go to a separate sixth form. And couldn't get on my course. Wanted to do a level 3 BTEC, couldn't even get on a level 3 BTEC. So they basically said, like, because you've not done any art, or because you've not done any GCSEs in art, you can either choose art or IT. And I was like, I'm not really an IT guy, I'll do art. So I had to do for a year, had to do level 2 BTEC in art. But that also created Matt B Customs. Like, in that year, it's basically just a year of, like, some people want to be there, some people are just doing it just to go to college. But fundamentally, you're just testing loads of different styles of creativity. So we're doing print, digital, and it was literally like, for me, I was like fully committed, because at that point my head had just gone, because the whole time I just thought, I'm fine, like, I'm all right, I'll swerve through GCSEs, I'll get decent grades. And I just didn't. And then obviously from this, it kind of like changed my whole trajectory. My mindset changed so much in that year, that I was just trying stuff. And I've always been entrepreneurial, like, always been, but I think that year really like tuned me in. And then obviously after that got into my my graphic design course, loved that, and then did it at uni. So then moved to Sheffield for 3 years and did it at uni. But in that first year at college, when I was 17, that's when I started Matt B Customs, and I've never stopped ever since. Been hard at it. I've not taken, other than when I've gone on holiday, that's when I've taken time off. But and maybe like around Christmas and stuff. But not stopped. Tunnel vision on that. I've tried to make other companies alongside it, but I just find that I work better when I've just got one project just in front of me and I just go ham at it. But like I say, I've always been entrepreneurial. Like, when I look back at it now, because obviously as you get older, you get a bit more introspective. Like, why was I like this? Like, why did I why was I like that at high school? Why did I kind of set myself back a year? But what I've realised is any passion that I had, I've made a business around it, like within it. So Like going like way back, obviously the classic thing is, I sold sweets at school, but I like genuinely did sell sweets at school. And like at Wharton, where I went to high school, you got in isolation and you got in quite a lot of shit. So you had like 2 warnings, and at the third you could get kicked out of school. And my mum and dad knew that, but basically what they said is, if you create a P&L, like, and we'll give you the Costco card as well. So there was basically at Costco you could get like Galaxy cookie crumble and shit, you know, like when people are bringing in like Kit Kat Chunkies, I was coming in with like decent stuff. Some rare shit. Well, they basically said, like, if you do a P&L, like, we'll allow you to get isolation, so we'll allow you to get that first mark. And I went to a big high school, so there was a lot of people to sell to, and just literally that was my first like inkling at just like utilising a bit of money that I had to make a little bit more. And it wasn't a lot of money, but it's understanding that business mindset. And like my mum and dad have never been business, they've never had businesses, they've always been just like normal 9-to-5 jobs, but they have definitely helped me like bring it out of me. I think they've kind of like lived through me a bit at times.
So in that first year when you're 17 doing the BTEC, what was the business at that point? And like, how did it like physically start? Was it literally you had a pair of shoes yourself, you started drawing on it, or what?
Yeah, so I know exactly how it first started. So where I went to, like my local area, there was a guy called Dave O'Howarth who was like an Instagram artist, and his mum was my primary school teacher. So even though when I was in like year 7, he was at year 11 at high school, so there was quite a big gap between us. But so I knew of him in the local area, and he was basically posting canvas art and doing it for like Joey Essex and like, you know, like you kind of like Towie people and a lot of like kind of reality stars. But also he had a website and he was selling prints, and I knew that he was living in his own house. I knew he was doing really well. He had this like sneaker wall. Whenever I saw him around, he was dressed in like sick shit. So I looked at him as like, I want to do what he's doing. And then I was constantly just watching his socials and stuff, because he was really good on social media. He was quite innovative back at the time, looking back at it. And then one day he took a load of Posca pens on holiday, and he was drawing on his Air Max. And I looked at him, I was like, wow, that looks so sick, and that's something that I could fully like get involved in. And obviously I'm already in the mindset of testing all this shit at college. So I just got on Google, and I quickly found out you can't put Posca pens on shoes, because it just comes off, like it just doesn't stay. It's not waterproof, it's not crack resistant, it doesn't stay on. But what I then quickly found is Angelus paint, and Angelus paint is initially made for like chairs, handbags, stuff like that, but it's crack resistant, waterproof, so it stays on, so it's really durable. And then ordered in some of that. There was like a sample kit, and just started painting on my own shoes. And at the time I was working at Clark's. That was like my part-time job at the Trafford Centre.
Classic.
So I was working there. I was there for like a year and a half, and that was like kind of was where I was earning my money. But I love fashion, always have it, like, well, not from a young age, but at that point when I started earning my own money, I've always dabbled in whatever the latest trend was. And so I had a few shoes to hand, and then I started painting them, wearing them around college. And because I had a big college, there was people that would come and ask about them. A lot of my friends, like kind of when I posted about it, because I'd worn a few pairs, and so quickly did people like latch onto him, that I just thought straight away, right, well, I'm just going to put them on Instagram and post a few photos of him. But obviously then once like my friends that weren't going to college with me and stuff saw that, they're all like, what the fuck is this, like painting on shoes, like a bit west. And I can fully understand why, to be fair, because there was a guy doing it called Virginia Ben, and he was unreal. Like he like honestly, bro, so fucking sick. And even like I don't really see much of him now, but back in the day, bro, he's fucking. I had a few people that I just almost obsess over, like just watching what they're doing. They're obviously a lot older than me, and he was one of like the big dons, like doing it. So just started painting on my own shoes. People started collecting it on Instagram, and luckily with like the scene at that point, there were quite a few like independent sneaker pages on Instagram, and I used to just hammer them with images, like tagged hashtags, everything, get reposts, and the following quickly built. And people at that point were giving me shoes to rework, so I wanted it to be like something where it's like, I know we've all not got money at this stage, but you can give me those and I'll do something sick on them, even if at one point it was just me freshening up shoes. So I was just taking anything I could in terms of orders to make some money. And then basically I got to the stage where I was like, everything's used, everything's grimy, like let me buy a pair of shoes, let me paint a design on it, and then let me put that on the website, but put it in every single size, and then someone can come on there and order it.
Yo fellas, quick one.
First bit of promo for the pod. You may or may not have heard, I released a fucking ecom course a few months ago. Basically spent like 6 months making it because I was in between businesses, as you probably know if you follow my shit. I must say, 12 hours long, it's fucking quality content. I was going to drop it at like 1,500 quid with some bullshit guru-y webinar and all that rubbish, but as you know, it's not my main thing. I'm working on a new brand right now, very, very fucking much in the trenches, which is why I think it's actually a better course than everything else out there, because it's built on real experience of my brands in the past and my current one. I think it's super, super valuable. If you're interested in ecom, you're already in ecom and you want to get into ecom, 0 to 1, starting a brand from scratch, then definitely worth investing in. Link is in the bio of this video, or podcast, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever the fuck you're listening or watching, and enjoy the rest of the pod.
And obviously now you'd say that's drop shipping, but at the time I just thought it's the way of me leveraging like different designs. They can be my shoes so I can wear them out. People can ask me about them. They're on the website. There's a brand new sample image on there. And that's how it started really. And then from there, it was more just once people saw one design, I'd try and push them away from that design and say, no, I've got more ideas. And that would obviously build the catalogue up. So at the start, it started off as like Adidas Superstars were popping. And Air Force Ones weren't really that big in my area, to be fair. I think they were big in London, but they weren't big in Manchester. So I didn't touch them for like 2 years. It was all Adidas, Superstars. It was, just anything that people were wanting at the time. There was a lot of like Tiempos and stuff, not Tiempos, Rocher runs and shit like that. So anyway, so that's how it kind of built up. I built up a website basically just off loads of drop shipping products, and people would then go on and order them. But then I'd also do a custom service where I've got this shoe or I want to do something on here, but I want something to go with an outfit. So that's kind of how it looked over college. And then I was doing my 2 years doing graphic design, level 3 BTEC. And I got a good few opportunities within that time. I think it was about 10k followers at that point. And my girlfriend worked at Selfridges in Trafford Centre. And she basically just put in a word one day and was like, oh, he's doing this. And then one of the managers about 2 months later was like, oh, you know, like your boyfriend's doing that. Like, would he do it in here? So they were like, right, well, I'll pass him on to like the marketing people. So when I was 17, I went and upstairs, there's like upstairs rooms in the Trafford Centre that no one really knows about, but they're like offices, and pitched like, basically I'd doing an NBC pop-up in the Trafford Centre store. And then, so that's how the first NBC pop-up started. And at that point, it was just like live, in store. The first one, they did it over a student night. So it was, they kind of threw me in it, to be fair. They did 10% discount for students and a free custom. So they paid me to be there. Obviously, you can imagine the amount of kids that then wanted that, because they could go in, buy a pair of Air Force or whatever shoes for 10% discount and get something unique on them. So it did really, really well. But obviously I was fully, like, I think it was the first like hour I just got fully booked, couldn't do any more. Was there for the rest of the night.
Just you making still? Yeah,
at this point it was just me. And don't get me wrong, the right the way through it, because I've had education on the side of things, it's always been like it's worked better for me now when I think about it, because I didn't ever really have to take the plunge and say like, shit, I've got bills to pay, I need to do this, because I was so young. So there was times back in the day where it dipped out and I'd have like 5 to 10 orders in a week. So I wasn't like one of these guys like fucking Imran who's on like millions when he's like 18. But the good thing was it was constantly building, and I was constantly seeing growth. And what I was then finding at times, or quite frequently, is I'd get fully booked where I could mathematically look at it and say, I've not got enough time to create these in a decent amount of turnaround time. So I'd stop taking orders. But then what that then did is that then gave a little bit more hype to them, because people had to wait. And people did wait. So then obviously from there I was like, right, my price is going up. So etched it up a little bit. And throughout time it's just kind of continued like that. And I really did grind right the way throughout college, just on my ones. It was just me. And I don't know why really. Now I look at it, I think I just wasn't in the right business mindset at the time to think of like scaling. I don't think I was old enough. I think I was happy with the amount of money I was earning, because it was good. It really did get good, because obviously the profit margins were just bigger and bigger. I had no overheads, and my mum and dad at that point weren't asking for rent. So it kind of set me up well. And then it wasn't at the stage where I could leave college and be like, right, this is what I'm doing full time, because I fundamentally didn't have any skills outside of that. And what I'd also showed myself is that education, it actually is for me when it's something that I'm passionate about. So got a distinction star at the BTEC, and I know that like people say like, yo, A-levels are well added. I fully agree, A-levels are well added, but for me, I was looking at that thinking like, no, I actually like, I'm good at this. So I went to uni and did it. I had an interview at like Sheffield, Hallam, Nottingham Trent, and Leeds College of Art. got in all three because they're like interview stages, and basically having looked at them, Sheffield was just the obvious pick. Like they just made this new building, so moved to Sheffield. Fortunately, because I come from like an area with so many people, there was pure people going, and they just happened to be like close friends that were also going. So like one of my literally best mates from like primary school was going, well, two of them, like there's pure people basically moving over from Salford to there. So we instantly like all moved into halls, but relatively close to each other. And yeah, I had a sick 3 years, but then on top of that, the business was still growing as well. So
yeah,
pop-ups didn't ever stop. We started doing it at Tommy Hilfiger, took on Ted Baker for a bit, but just because I was just saying yes to anything and everything. We did a bit more B2B stuff. We got a lot of celebrities in them. So even though I was like, that was another thing as well, like obviously university, I don't know how your experience was, but when you do graphic design at Sheffield, it's like a studio environment. So you've got to be in for register at 10 a.m. and then you're in till 3, which I just didn't think that was the case. So like, I thought I was going to be able to leverage my time quite a lot, and it was full on. Like uni, even first year was like, it was a lot of hours. So
yeah,
late nights. One of my like close boys, in college we'd set up a clothing brand called Rue Longue, doing just like loads of like cut and sew pieces, t-shirt printing, and he was like my boy for like fashion, because a lot of like my close mates from high school didn't really have that kind of thing in common. So he was like, we just back and forth all the time about like fashion, entrepreneur, like just the whole journey. You know when you're just feeding off each other, you learn something, I'm going to tell you, and it was a sick relationship. So because we were so close, he was working at office in uni. So I was like, do you want to do this with me? Because I've got enough orders for you. And obviously you're already into this sort of stuff. I can teach you how to do it. So then, we were living in the same like uni flat. He was doing it with me, and then he'd come to pop-ups. Tom Watson, his name is.
Shout out.
And yeah, shout out Tom Watson. And then, it was just a case of like having someone there almost to like feed off at all times. When I had a new idea, I had stuff to bounce off, and I fully loved that, because at the time, because I'm living away from my mum and dad, they don't really know too much of what's going down. They know that I'm doing Selfridges and stuff because I wanted to tell them, but they didn't really know like what was going down. So yeah, just literally grinded through uni, managed to get a 2-1, which I was like proud of. But looking back at it now, I probably shouldn't have spent so much time on the coursework, because like realistically, I learnt more in college graphic design wise. Like, bro, it's uni for graphic design is just bullshit. Like they're not physically teaching you. It's all about like,
I ended up doing advertising, which was ironic.
Yeah.
And I dropped out when I was running Facebook ads. Yeah. So it was like, yeah, it's a fucking weird one. Just going back slightly, you're good at telling the story. So when, in the early days, just to clarify them, so were you doing more of people bringing their shoes and you were drawing on them?
No, so that was really early on that at college level.
Right.
So once we started to build up a catalogue, it just didn't make sense to me anymore, because people would give you fucked up shoes, like, and I mean like dirty, dusty shoes.
When someone orders though, would you literally go to the shop and buy it, or were you dealing with like suppliers?
Online, and even to this point, it's still like that.
Yeah.
So like that's the major downside of the business, because it's literally people's full-time jobs might be accustomed to buying base shoes, because the only problem is like the whole business model is based off the shoe that you rate and you want to wear all the time. We're going to create something that you can't buy on the high street, and we're going to make it super limited. And the downside to that is we're only working on shoes that are hyped and have hype. And for years, Air Force Ones were easy to get hold of, so I could buy 20 online, one transaction, boom. Now they're a lot more turned on to the whole why you order in bulk, so that there's not a resale market for resellers, and that comes under us as well, because technically we are a reseller. But the thing for us is, and I know this from speaking to the brands, they appreciate what we're doing, because we're buying their product at RRP, adding artistic expression to it.
You're not getting any bulk discount.
We do now. We do now. But for so long we didn't. So it just came to a stage where ordering in just became like that. That was just a done thing. That was like part of my job at uni. Ordering in, getting them made. But it was only really on at college that I actually was working on used shoes. I quickly came away from that model. Yeah.
And how big was the business then when you got to uni? Because like my question would be, why did you even bother going to uni? Or was it just like a cool environment? And
yeah, I think it was a mixture of everything, because the scene wasn't what it was at the time. So I wasn't looking at anyone above me and being like, they're doing it better than what I'm doing. And I was at full capacity, full peak with orders. And in my eyes at that point, the RRP was expensive. But obviously this is before we were VAT registered. This is before we had overhead.
Yeah.
So the RRP from then has changed loads, but that's also my business mindset. Like, I'm very frugal. So like, I used to think that like £150 for a pair of Air Forces is too expensive. So I would go into that mindset and never kind of go above that. And at the time, the RRP for a pair of Air Forces was like 70 quid. And the paints are pennies. So like, if you want to work out like how much a custom takes to create it, the overheads on the like the paints and stuff is not a lot at all. So I had no overheads, no real material costs because at that point I was just painting. So throughout uni I was just painting orders. I wasn't doing what we do now. So the profit was good, the money was good, but at the same time I'd reached the peak and I was looking at other people and no one had scaled in the scene, no one had even built a brand. It was all just individual artists, and it still is now really. We're the only people to really build a brand and actually like be able to scale this shit, and that's why we get all the B2B work when it's looking at scale, because there's no one else really to do it. But then as I then obviously going to uni, the reason why I was going there was because I didn't see that like I've always had an entrepreneurial mindset, and I actually do want to become like very, very wealthy, and not just for the money thing, but just for the whole build. I want to see the big side of like business. And at that point, I just saw a ceiling on the business that it wasn't like, it was a good side thing. Like, it was a good thing to like keep me going, blah, blah. So went to uni, and I then got into the scale mindset once I'd taught Tom how to paint, and then that was the problem, that I'd already spent the money in going to uni, spent the money in the first year. I'd had a sick party life as well, so like, obviously you're thinking in your head like, oh, do I really want to give up this for the next 2 years while all my boys are here having a sick time? So I stuck with it, and I'm glad I did, to be fair, because it showed me like how much you can work when you're really when you're up against it and there's a lot of things going on. It taught me time management. It taught me like no one was out there doing it for me. I had to do it. I had to make sure that, because some of the projects, bro, at uni, you should like, in my final year, we had to do 5 major projects. One of the major projects was bring a product to market. Well, you can imagine for people like us, you just want to absolutely go in on that. Like, so I created this like CBD gummy brand, and I fucking buzzed off it. So I went deep into it. But that was one of my 5 projects. So then all of a sudden I'm like, you can imagine how you're almost doing too much uni work. And that was the downside to it, that fundamentally I shouldn't have ever done it, but I'm glad I did it. Obviously I've got the debt now, and I've got the experiences, and I'm happy. Like, and I came out of uni feeling like I'd have this like slingshot on me. And then I literally finished. My mum and dad had no questions of me setting this up, because they knew how big it was at that point. And I was just looking for people to take on at that point. I was looking in my local area for people like who's artistic, who's got like, even just in the fashion industry, like who wants to be in it. And like first 4 months, found a studio, this low key spot in Swinton above like a Premier shop, £250 a month. No central heating.
Definitely not central London.
Yeah, exactly. It's no central heating, but it was nice. It was like a relatively big box room with like a kitchen and a bathroom. And first 4 months we just started flying. But one of the key things in that was when I finished uni, I obviously finished, and I didn't want to have like, you know, some people go traveling and stuff like that. I didn't want to have that, because I felt like my momentum was just fully there. I felt like I just wanted to go fully into it. So I was looking for studio spaces, and while I was off in like the summer holidays of like that uni, that final uni year, my mum got made redundant. So all her life she's been like a saleswoman, and she worked in education, and she basically sold books to schools as like a freelancer. And then she like was doing really well at that, and she's quite an operations person, so they then gave her a manager's role to look after the freelancers, you know, that are then selling into schools. So she almost got like a promotion, but the company didn't do very well, and she got made redundant. So it almost was like perfect that then she was able to help me find studio space, help me with like all the to and fro and building the studio. And then we were kind of a few weeks into it, and she was like, right, I'm gonna help you for a little bit, like a couple weeks. And then I was like, well, what if you were to not look for a job and I pay you, and you kind of helped me for a little bit longer than that, because I feel like we're going to need a little bit longer than that. Like at this point I had no processes in like at all, so someone would get an order and Shopify would be my organization, like a list of unfulfilled and not fulfilled. So she very quickly like brought me down to like operations level, and she's helped me ever since, because she is really good at that. Like she's never like been one to do that as like a job, but she is really good at it. So that's how like my mum started working for me, just like really early on, and she still works at NBC now.
When did you finish uni then?
So I finished uni in so I'm 24 now, graduated 2 years ago, so
2019.
Yeah, so 2019.
Yeah.
Went there in.
And how many orders were you doing at the end of uni?
So at the end of uni we were doing about 30 a week, but that was with me and Tom, and that was like, at that point we were in the trenches, but it was doable, fully doable. Like it wasn't there was, even just with us two, there was more to be done at that point. Yeah. Bearing in mind though as well is the stuff that we were creating is nothing like what we create now. So like it was like illustrations and pattern work and stuff like that. So it's stuff that you can create in batches. So I wouldn't really try and do any one design. I'd do like 10, and I'd do one color with multiple layers on each one. So you work it like a factory. So 30 to, yeah, it's just not a lot, but also that's in my like mind, not a business that you want to stick to either. Like there's more money out there than that sort of scale. Yeah. And that's why I question sometimes some of like our competition, because I've been there at that level and it's hard, bro. Like the money's like, it's good, but it's like, yeah, it's like.
And where were the sales coming from? Is it all organic?
Yeah, so it's quite an Instagrammable.
Like organically, that's a fair amount.
Yeah, it's quite an Instagrammable thing though. And what we also got was a lot of like local people wearing them that had a fairly big following that would bring in sales locally. Then I'd do pop-ups that I'd bring in locally. So at those days, I was very much like UK built. Like it was a lot of Manchester, a lot of the surrounding areas. And to be fair, mate, like even marketing wise, like I've always been quite frugal with it, and that's been like a downside for me, because I've always kind of not wanted to, similar to like your situation, go over that bit where you can't complete the orders, because I've always been like very much like brand orientated. So even though it's called like Matt B Customs, I don't really want to be like the face of it, and I never was for 4 or 5 years, but I wanted to make sure that this was a brand. I wanted to put a logo to it, and I wanted people to associate that pair of Air Force Ones to a brand. It's not just Nike shoe, it's Matt B Customs Nike shoe. So and I did that in multiple ways, like branding it. We do like these like shoe charms. There's like it comes in proper packaging. No one else really does that. I forgot where I was going with that, to be fair. I was complete tangent.
No, it's good. It's good content. Yeah, so come out of uni, focus on a business which is already there. So it's been there for 3 years roughly, I think, at like lowish scale.
Yeah.
What was the first thing to be like, let's start scaling up? Obviously you mentioned your mum came in, sort out operations and shit, which is super important, which I think not enough people speak about, especially in like the whole e-com sphere, where it's all just about spending more money on marketing. Like what was the first thing other than that you started to focus on?
In terms of how to build sales? Yeah,
just in terms of like what was the next step to grow everything?
So I think one main thing to like point out as well is that I had a very, very like, I was very conscious at uni not to take too many orders on. So I'd used to shut off the website, but then what I'd also do is I'd go relatively quiet on posts, but I'd still be active, and then I'd log up stuff, and I'd kind of go out in like drops, like the website's live, and then post loads of shit, go back down. So I knew, even at that point when we were getting that many orders, I knew there was so much more I could do to get more orders organically. And then it was just a case of building up SEO, building up like people and different designs. Because another main thing is like, if you look at the team now and the team from early like 2-3 years ago when I left, everyone that came on is a better artist than me. So that up to the levels of what we're able to create. And because I'm so deep in the scene, I know what's kind of already been done. So I was very much like, had a lot of ideas, but I knew they could be created at a better level than me. So like, say for instance, like Lola, when she came on, so she was a girl that was working at NBC called Ellie. It was her cousin, and she'd been in my graphics course, and she'd gone in uni, dropped out, and she'd been like a nanny for a bit, and then she'd posted up on Instagram her painting like a pair of Converse, and she'd give it to an artist. She gave them to an artist that she liked. And I seen in that post on Instagram, I was like, yo, have you painted those? They're like very, very sick. And obviously Ellie was working at the studio. So I was like, what's Lola doing work-wise? And she was like, yo, she's just literally lost a job, she's just left a job. So I was like, right. And this was in really early days of having the studio since leaving uni. And now looking back at it, it's like, wow, like you couldn't even write that, because Lola's still with us now. She's like such an asset to the team. Like, yeah, it's just mad how, even though a lot of the team are local people and people that have like kind of grew up around, she's a little bit older than me, but grew up around, it's mad to see the skill level that we've got, even just from that. And obviously now it's changed, we've got people from different areas, it's not just a case like a local company anymore, and it's not going to be long term either. But yeah, it is funny that the amount of talent locally that I have to me, and even now there's still people that I've not tapped into.
Yeah, and so many questions I'm going to. And like, did you start running paid ads then as well? Because obviously organic is massive, SEO is massive. Yeah,
so that was one thing, but all on by myself. So I was learning that, because even just one of the reasons why I went into graphic design, like it's always that I wanted a digital trade. I wanted to like use these key skills to build stuff. So as soon as I found out that there was a way of like marketing in that way, as soon as I left uni, me and Tom got on that and was like learning that. The only downside to that is that because customs are so hands-on, like the painting hours, and I quickly realised that you can easily lose money on ads as well if you're not on top of them and you're not good at them.
Very true.
So I just started to ease away from that quite quickly, and we've only brought that back in the past year. So yeah, even when I speak to, like, because I've gone and spoken to a lot of different agencies and like even just freelance people that do ads. Funny actually, one of them I met at a party, and he messaged me like when we graduated. He did your ads. He's called Joe, but he sent me Neon Beach's Instagram. So he basically trained with, do you know that Aaron Branch who's just been on The Apprentice? Yeah. So
it's called Joe Marston.
Yeah.
Fuck off. He was on the episode.
Was it? Oh,
last
mad.
Episode.
Yeah. So like
I met your ads. Oh, he's not listening.
Yeah, so I met him at a gaff party in Sheffield, and then
I know Ollie.
Right, okay.
Who runs Saw with us? Right. With him. They were the episode just gone.
Right, yeah.
That's so weird.
Do you know what though? When you've spoken about ads, I've always thought, oh, you know what? I don't even know if I want to bring it up in case you say something like, oh, he was dead shit, and then he listens to this.
No, I worked with them for a while. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, even back then, like I was so frugal that like I'd spoken to him and he was like, look, I'm doing this. And I looked at Neon Beach, and that's how I first came about the company, obviously not knowing anything about you. Saw Neon Beach and I was like, sick. I can see how there's a similarity in this business, that they're creating like custom stuff that's got to be manufactured.
Scale it too hard.
Well, but this is the thing though, and that's what I was always conscious of. So we were already doing well organically, and I just was scared that I could fuck up my business here.
Most brands, I feel like, wouldn't do anything organically. Like, especially like new brands now, it's all you have to run ads to get sales.
Yeah, but Instagram's different like scene now, innit? Like I'm so frustrated with Instagram in general at the moment, just with how like your reach now is just so poor that not just does it make you look like you've not got like legit followers, but it's more that you've built up that following and they're not seeing your shit, and it's just like,
very true.
And it's like TikTok, like you have one post that absolutely bangs off and does like unreal numbers, and you think, right, I'm on a roll, and then the next one just dies, and it's like, but so yeah, at that point I was relying so heavily on Instagram, like it's unbelievable. Like I'd be on stories every day, swipe ups, like heavy on Instagram on SEO and just on influencer marketing. Like we've never paid someone to wear it, but I've asked a lot of people for them for free. Yeah. So like all the people that you see that's worn NBC, we've never actually paid anyone to do it, which I'm quite proud of, to be fair. But I think that also is a testament to the product, but the fact that we're already selling something that's trendy, and then on top of that we're adding something unique onto it, so people would bite your hand off for free shit with those sorts of things.
Yeah, for sure. It's unique as well.
Yeah, but even the scale of it, like my girlfriend works at JD influencing marketing team, so she's like in that realm, and some of the prices that these influencers are charging are just mad. And like we've had like Jess Hunt and people like that do it for free, and it's like looking back at it, it's like pretty mad. Yeah,
Refi Beauty or something. Refi, I don't know how you say it.
Smashed it.
Massive,
smashed it. So so it's a weird one, because it's like realistically, like I could have scaled sooner, but I've not got that many people that can create. Like at the moment, the team's 11 with 7 people that create orders. And at Christmas time, like the time just gone, it's hard work. Like it's a lot. And the only downside to it is I want to build like a proper team culture. And the only problem is like now when ecom falls off a cliff, like in January, I don't want to be taking on people and then mess them about that you've not got a job here anymore. So I'm just now trying to find those perfect like people that can dip in and dip out. So like we've got someone like Kelvin, who I'll speak about more because I've got to go into Kelvin, but Kelvin's friend, Kelvin's friend, Alex, he's an actor. So like at a drop of a hat, he needs to go out and go to an audition. Yeah. So I was able to teach him like relatively easy customs because that's someone who doesn't rely on me solely, but at the same time can come in whenever needed because like he does act like he was in a movie last month with like Dame Judi Dench. So he's he's like a proper actor, but he's got a lot of free time. So I just try and leverage people like that I know that I'm not going to let down, so that I can have the core team that live in the studio every day and feel like we're all in it together, because the business wouldn't be anything without everyone else because of the fact that it's handcrafted customs.
Right, so obviously mad organic shit, which is kind of different to, I feel like every ecom thing I've ever been involved in, which has been heavily ad and media buying led, and probably 90% of guests we've had as well, to be honest, which is sick. And I feel like that stuff takes longer to probably build up than kind of explode and crash, like my Neon Beach thing, for example. But obviously, like, how do you think you scale that? Like, do you find there's so many opportunities to scale and like people want stuff and you haven't got the team or currently capability to make it, or
it's just this constant balancing act of having an adequate team to take on when it's at its peak, but then also when it's not busy, not having too big of a team. So even like now, so like say right now, January, it falls off a cliff. Like it's fucking shocking how different December is. Because you can imagine for us, like we are a craft gift when you deep it. So we get so many people that come around that period and order. But what you've also got to remember is like with the backlog that we have, like this Christmas, we took like 400 orders within the month of November. So we basically lock off the website in December. Well, I don't shop for my Christmas presents till like fucking dead late in December. So there's constantly this thing of like, we want to have enough pre-made stock there so that when you come, you can just buy a pair of them. And that we don't have to, the time's already been made to make them. But then at the same time, because of how good the drop shipping method is, that you literally like, we have like an accountants, and obviously whenever you're talking about them, like you realize how lucky you are to have a business that the customer pays you up front, and with that money you can then use it. So we've built up like a relatively large stockpile now of base shoes. So we've got I won't go into figures, but we've got a lot of base shoes, but then also we've got a lot of pre-mades as well. And this is what we go to like Crep City and places like this with, where we show our offering, so you can just go on and buy it, but fundamentally we're showing you like, look at the amount of different shit we do, come on the website and buy it. So it's this constant balancing act of wanting to just absolutely blow the top off it and just sell as many as we can. But like now we've gone through Brexit, we've really struggled with base shoes this year, to the point where it's like, even if you wanted to sell, it's still like drawing back. Like we've got gaps in sizes like this Jan that we've not had that for years. Do you know what I mean? Like we've got,
that just because you can't get the base shoes?
Literally, like can't get it. And what then happens is, because we can't get it, the reseller, because we work a lot with resellers that have bots to buy these shoes, and they add a very small margin on. So it works for us that fully is fine. You know, at the very peak of it, that we're not only just buying something at RRP, but we're buying it with a little bit on top. That's even with our costings, that's still okay. But it's not fucking ideal. Do you know what I mean? Like it's profit that literally is there staring at you, that's going elsewhere. And that's also where like fundamentally my idea of the business is changing. Like we do a lot of B2B stuff now, and that is like, if you looked at it in terms like profitability, in terms of actual amount of work, it just shits all over it. Like completely shits all over it. So I just want this balancing act of like, to take on young, like hungry, creative people, have a team that work on the business that are not so young, more experienced, and that can really take it, like not just like production wise, but like even just in creative, like take it to the next level. and then also work on B2B stuff. So we've got like 3 parts of the business. So we've got like the e-com side, we've got like the B2B side where we work with brands, collaborate with brands on like video pieces, custom shoes, custom accessories. But then we've also got the live pop-up events. And obviously for the past 2 years, that's been very, well, just completely dead. But it's started to pick back up now. Like in December, we did a pop-up at Size with New Balance, and that shit's going to pop off a lot more now. Like we've already got stuff in the works, that stuff's booked. So yeah, that side of the business is coming.
How does sales split between custom and like pre-design then?
As in, so if someone's going on the website, how many more people are ordering? A lot of people are ordering that we don't have the pre-made. That just seems to be the way. Like, we don't stock.
But is that because you don't stock it, or is that like they're actually ordering a custom shoe?
No, so it's because we don't try and stock too many in one design. So you go in like the Represent warehouse, and they've obviously got multiple of one set thing. Whereas I'm really just looking to have like a light coating of all our product offerings, so that we can show them people, if you want to take that one, but we'll replenish it straight away. So we don't have like a full size run in every single design, because if you go on the website, we've got like 125 products. So it's like there's no point in going into that. I'd rather have a stockpile full of white Air Force Ones, and with the scale of the team that we've got, we can turn it around for you quickly. And like what you just got on there with custom stuff, we do a hell of a lot of one stuff now. Yeah,
that's what I mean.
Yeah, so like as the team's built, we offer like free mock-ups. So like the social team will like reply to you. They'll get like a kind of understanding of what you want. And if you don't know what you want, our creative team will help you do that if you've got a topic. And then obviously with the level of artists that we've got, you can do anything. Like say if you wanted your dog on a pair of shoes, we'll hand paint that. If you wanted something to, like I know you go to like Taboo London, you're the nightclub, we just did a load of shoes for their guests.
I've been there once.
Right, okay, I've seen that on your Instagram, because
I'm definitely not like a nightclub guy person, genuinely speaking. Like honestly, I still think I've got fucking anxiety from that weekend. I'm dead serious. I was saying to my flatmates, like fucking 5 days later. But yeah, sorry, just a little side note.
So do you not drink a lot then? Because when I see you with the wine in the pod, I'm always like...
Yo fellas, quick one. You may or may not have noticed there's been a bit of merch, so to speak, in recent episodes. We've got 2 different things. We've got some of the retro style OG Neon Beach posters that are designed like 4 years ago. You may have seen it on my Instagram. And then we've got some of the best selling OG viral style neon signs that basically did start that entire craze about 2 years ago now. So yeah, if you want to add something to your home office, your living room, just anywhere sick basically that you want to add that extra thing to and support the channel, then you can check that out. Link is in the bio, midnight.co/shop, and yeah, just an aesthetic item to complement the process, I suppose. Cheers for watching and enjoy the rest of the pod. Am I giving off that impression? I mean, I don't go to nightclubs a lot. Like I used to do a lot more of that. I don't really enjoy it that much anymore. Yeah, it's cool now and then. Wine on the pod I do enjoy. Not drinking wine tonight because it's like a midweek one.
Yeah. I'm the opposite, me. I'm like a binge drinker, so if you go in my house, like there's beer there, doesn't get touched. Wine, girlfriend doesn't get touched, but then when I go out, I always get fucked. So I'm like in this weird, unhealthy zone of like
this weekend was the first time I've been like heavy in a while. Obviously, I was fucking telling you before. I won't go into that too much, but yeah, just get like
it writes off your next day though, doesn't it?
It writes. I feel like it's written off my next few days this week. I don't know, just other things, but yeah, it's fucking heavy. Yeah. I can't do it like. Yeah, I'd like to think I could go fully sober for like a year, but I do like wine, and I don't think wine has that same effect. It's more like when I go out.
Are you drinking it to get drunk, or are you liking the taste?
I like the taste and mellow mood of wine. Right, I think it's a conversational drink.
Right.
Whereas vodka, I find isn't that. It's just like a nightclub degenerate spec, but also like just makes me feel different. Makes me feel like sad. It's not like a nice drunk. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's kind of different, but.
Yeah.
Where were we? Fucking hell.
I don't remember.
I've thrown you off.
I don't remember.
Yeah, so actually on the customs, how much more do you charge for them? Because I guess it is similar to what I was doing with the neon stuff. Like, I didn't charge much more.
What were your margins like on the product?
On the product, it was like 60% product margin, so it's pretty decent.
Yeah,
but the AOV was like 300 quid.
Yeah, but I didn't
Whereas
realise
with my supplement stuff now, it's going to be like
though.
85-90% product margin.
I didn't realise the margins were that big though, if I'm honest. That's really good. Like ours are not nowhere near that. We've got some products that are 10. But then
10% margin?
Yeah, but we've got other products that are a lot more than that, and they're the ones that are a lot more frequent.
But I think this is where because I expect on any ecom brand that I've done it in the past to spend up to 50% of revenue on marketing.
This is where
the
like
mindset difference.
Yeah, and this is also where like,
worse, but like I just don't assume I assume there's gonna be zero organic.
Bro, honestly, like that sometimes I do, because I'm really into the figures. Like I love that side of the business as I've got older and as I've like seen it build out. And like I know like we've done so well not to kind of go to that stage. It was choking then. Not go to that stage where we're having to spend like money on ads. And don't get me wrong, like now there's less work going, so you do kind of think, I wish I had that momentum from November and December and all the other months, but to take you into January, so you are still getting a lot more e-com sales. But at the same time, it's this kind of balancing act of like, right, where do I want to be with the business? The e-com side is the bread and butter. But I think like you've only got to look at our branding now, where we've took it to that people want to work with us. Like we're having to turn down work because of the amount of people that want to work with us. And there's also so much untapped potential that we're outreaching to people to work with. So it's like this balancing act of like, yeah, I want to have loads of e-com sales, but I don't want to overflow it where we get a bad rep in the press. Yeah. And then also this thing where it's like, on Trustpilot.
7,000 more sales.
And so it's like this whole balancing act of like, and another thing is one thing that my mum's helped me with a lot is like understanding costings and actually how to cost something up, so that you know fundamentally what you need to earn, because we've got quite a lot of overheads as a business, like because we've got a big team, we've got a relatively big space, because we've got the amount of like our cost of goods sold is, I bet it's similar to you, like the cost of goods sold is a lot, because you're buying in these shoes, you're buying in the equipment, like the materials and stuff like that. And over the years we've tried to reduce that as much as we can, but we've kind of got it to a stage now where you can't really lower it anymore. And that's then when I've started to implement ads more, because now I can understand what I can spend on the ads. And then obviously once it gets to a certain threshold, if they bring in a certain amount of revenue, we can top that up. But when I was going in at ads, we were paying the agency 1.5 a month, and our original budget for the whole month was 1.5. Which to you is like, I bet you're looking at it like, fucking hell, that's nothing. But like we just couldn't really at the time go over that. And that's the hard thing, that like that's the frustrating thing for me anyway, because I really do want to like I want to see like multiple millions revenue, and sometimes or at times I've realized that it's very hard to do it in the e-com side of things. And this is where like that is the bread and butter, but fundamentally the B2B stuff is mega, and the pop-up events are mega. So it's like this balancing act of getting all that right. And a lot of the things, even while I'm doing this, like I do want to be a lot more like in front of the brand now, because I feel like I've grown a lot, so I feel like I can be that face. Because back in the day all the Instagram was just pictures of shoes in my hand. So for a lot of time I had no intention of being it. But I only look at like I love fashion, so I love like small brands, and I like the brands that I like the most is where I know the owners, and not personally know them, but where you invest like, into them. Like
Represent, for example.
Bro, Represent, Cole Buxton.
You're on that, like, I'm trying to get them on the pod.
Yeah, bro.
I messaged both and they heard me.
Really?
I'll have to message them again.
Right, okay.
They won't be watching. Well, if you're
There's so
watching,
many brands though, like so many brands, like even like Risa Barra, you've got like, you've got and to be fair as well, like most of those are ones that you can name are Manchester based. So like,
very true.
We've got it popping down on our sides. I love money. But
it's true.
So it's one of those things where I was looking at those and thinking like, I love this brand so like solely because I know what it's taken to get to that, and I know like what the sacrifices they've got. I can kind of appreciate it, whereas I can't really look at like a Gucci and a Balenciaga and understand, number one, the cost of it, but also like have any like want to wear it. Do you know what I mean? Like I don't want to wear that. So I knew from looking at brands of what I want to wear that you've got to kind of let people in, you got to show people. And the good thing is we've got a sick creative team, and we're all young, so we have loads of fun. So that's why now you do see a lot more of the team and me working, because we have got something special going on.
And what is the biggest block right now stopping you from getting to 100 million revenue? Hypothetically.
So base shoes, actual skilled artists to output the things that we've got, and I think that is it. But then what I'd also say is I'm not just like, because I think so much in the future that this isn't like what you see the business now is not sustainable in my head long term, because like even now, like white Air Force Ones, when I first started, they were 70 quid. this, like, because of Brexit, they went up to like 100 over time because of Brexit. Now they've just gone up to 115. So like it's just creeping and creeping and creeping. And yeah, so fundamentally what the plan is now is that we'll create a separate brand. Like it's already in the works now. So Talk Studios will be coming, and basically what that is it's a footwear brand that is solely owned by us. But then also that has chance to scale, but then also we'll customize it as well. So we're already in the works with that.
Yeah, I was going to say, would you ever think about just actually manufacturing shoes?
Yeah, so yeah, I like,
because that's where you can scale.
Yeah,
so the constraint.
Yeah, so I did like a documentary with Channel 4, and at the end of it, he was like, "What do you think the future is to Matt B Customs?" And I was like, having our own shoe. And then basically, a guy called Nathan DM'd me or messaged me on LinkedIn and was like, "Yo, bro, I brought Mallett's, Tommy Mallett's brand to market. I can do the same for you." And he's basically an agent. So yeah, so started going back and forth with him, but then also quickly realised there's a lot of other guys like that, and we're with like talking to someone new now, and that's just kind of ticking over. But we had a lot of ideas going into it that basically like where the brand is at is we create like a lot of white leather shoes, and white leather shoes are like usually crease, and over time they look a bit shit, and like if you're a sneakerhead, like you don't want your shoes looking shit. So we want to create something that like has that durability to it. So it's obviously not a leather upper, but it's still aimed at a sneakerhead market. So it's a bit more of a beater. And then we'll go full circle with it where we kind of bring in like the entrepreneurial side of things, because I don't know about you, have you got the 247 range from Represent?
I'm wearing it right now.
Bro,
that's all I wear.
Love this shit.
I've got like 7 pairs.
Like honestly, bro, that whole like market for me is just like so sick, where it's something that you like cherish and love, and the quality's there, but you can like I wear these to the gym, but then I'll also wear them on a night out, and it's just like
they're 247.
Yeah, these are 247 as well. Not this pair, because these are old, but bro, love them, love them. So with that, it's like I can see how there's a market for that, and obviously that's got scalability as well. But I think like going back to like Matt B Customs and where I like see the future of it is the B2B stuff. Like it's just mega. Like do you know a lot? Have you looked into like who we work with and stuff? Because I think like that sets us aside massively, but it also like
probably not enough.
Yeah, so it shows a lot of like
enough fucking research. You can tell me.
Like businesses can use us in a lot of different ways, and that's like we're kind of susceptible to anyone using us. Like Space Goods could come on, and we could work with Space Goods.
Let's fucking do it.
Yeah, so
that's a good idea actually.
So what you find is that a lot of people kind of take from what we've got going on and just bring it into their business. So we've worked with like loads of different brands, and yeah, that's just like the future now. It's working with different brands on different projects, like that's where we're at.
So can you talk about that thing you showed me before?
Not that one, that's under NDA, that's that client's bare private.
Yeah,
but I can tell you about
mad projects like that.
I'll tell you about that project, where that stemmed from. So basically got an email off a PR agency and was like, right, we've got this idea. There's a new film coming out on Christmas Eve called Don't Look Up. It's for it's going on Netflix.
Seen it, good shit.
Basically what we want to do is buy a meteorite and put it on a pair of sneakers. Can you do it? So it was like we rang them up and got on this call, and then at the start you're just like mad, but then as it started materialise, right, okay, so we had full creative control. So we had to speak to Nike. Didn't want to be involved in the project at the time because they weren't going to pay them, but New Balance came through and was like, we'd love to be a part of it. So we went with a New Balance 550, which is like an up and coming shoe anyway. It's something that you're going to see us customise a lot anyway. And yeah, basically they bought a meteorite from Christie's auction, 4.5 billion years old, which is just mad.
How much they pay for that?
I actually don't know with that one. So the one that I've showed you today, that little piece was 1.5k, and they've spent 18 grand on like the full bit. I fully can't, it's under NDA, so I actually fully can't chat about that one. But basically with that one, they supplied the meteorite, and then they paid us to basically work out how you're going to put this on a shoe. So that was like something where you're kind of being given full creative control, but you're working with a medium that you never worked before. And like those projects I love, because it's like that's when you fully get to like show off like where you're at in just understanding how the shoe's made, but also what you can do with it. And then PR wise, it was amazing, because obviously all the hype beast, Heisenbite and all that get behind it. That's how we got verified for all that PR. It's only recent that we got verified. It's funny actually, it came about all in one day, literally on like Friday, in a Friday in December, when I think it might have been like the 11th or 10th or something like that. We had the Channel 4, like the E4 YouTube series come out. Then we were at a JD event in London doing like a pop-up shop for their Christmas event. So we'd done like 60 pairs of custom sneakers for all the influencers there and like the artists that were there and like Anthony Joshua and that. So that was like a sick event. Then we had that and then the Netflix thing, all to post, like all wanting to be posted on the Friday. So it felt like we just had all these projects, but then one day, and it just felt like, fuck's sake, you work so hard to build up everything, and then all of a sudden it just like loads on your lap all at once. And then that same night we got verified as well. So it's like you have this mad high, like euphoric fucking day, and then now we're in January and it's like back to square one again. Let's grind.
Tell me about it.
But we've got some mad projects even now that we're working on. I can't say what brand it is because that's under NDA as well. But basically, Metaverse Fashion Week is in two weeks from now. And so let's just say said brand has a shop on Decentraland. So basically what it is on that day you can go in the store of the fashion week, buy the shoes, and then what you're also going to get is we've created a physical shoe, but that like integrates with the NFT. And that's something that we're looking a lot into now. Like we've had a lot of chats, most on a network level, but also just with individual brands that basically think that they can bring us into that space. But that's also something that I see a lot of legs on, because I don't like it. I don't like the idea of like this metaverse thing, but it's going to happen, mate. And fundamentally, like people want to show off what they've got in the physical life over there. So we're going straight into that world. Like, you know, like, it just works hand in hand. So that's something that's like popping off at the moment. At Christmas, football agents did like a like Christmas gift to all the footballers. They've got 75 clients, so they paid for like a slot with us, and everyone could get either the phone case, the wash bag, or like some sort of like designer thing customized by us. So that's still ticking on into January.
Yeah, I saw quite a few footballers on the page.
Yeah, so that obviously it goes hand in hand, and it like because we're creating stuff that is like limited, unique, like those sorts of people have the money to be able to do that, so they do it. And I feel like we've got quite a good business just for everyone, really. Like we try and appeal to most 18 to 24 year olds. Like we've got edgy shit on there. We've got like, and we've worked with brands that are more edgy. Like we've just worked with a brand called Off the Rails, who are a Manchester based like creative magazine. And we basically, they're bringing out, so they've got quite a big following. They're on like 250k, and they've got about 10,000 subscribers to their magazine. And it's every month they do like this, like creators send in, and it's got a theme, and it's quite a sick like visual piece of art. Well, because of the following they've got, they're now going into clothing, but they're going at like quite a high end. And basically we're doing their footwear. So there's this app called Alveo, and it basically allows you. Did you ever use a Burlo back in the day? Yeah. So it's basically like a Burlo for Shopify. So like, say for instance, I was working with you with Stadium Goods. You could, like you have on your website, your signs, you could put a pair of custom Air Force Ones on there, and you'd have a set price for them. In our back end, joined our two Shopify stores would be joined through Alveo. You get the order, but it comes straight into our fulfillment. You keep your profit straight away, but you also trickle the money down to us through the app. So we're working with a lot of brands now to do that we're basically working purely as a manufacturer, but creating bringing like shoes or accessories to the market for them. And that is when you're deep, like how far you can go with that we're only just really doing that now because of the technology that allows us to do it. But it's just loads of stuff that we can still be working on, loads of growth still to be had.
Yeah, fuck. What do you think is the hardest thing other than that then? Like obviously I think I read you have 12 employees, is it? 11. So so we're all working from the studio, but my dad works as well for NBC. So my dad basically when it got good, he saw how easy it was just to earn a good living because of the people that he was seeing like getting paid at NBC. So he quit his job because basically what he did is like going into like a little bit about like my mum and dad, because I genuinely do, looking back at it now, think like I am a product of my mum and dad a lot. Like I fully do see that. Like I've got a very, very close relationship with them. And when I was like in high school and shit, they were like, I thought they were like the polar opposite to me. I thought that like just classic young shit. But as I've got older, I've realized like they have fully like, just made sacrifices, like worked towards, like they've never really hit like crazy potential in their careers. They've always had like kind of good jobs. Like my dad's got a good job, but they're not like, they've never really like experienced like mad shit. So I feel like they've kind of
yeah, I feel like they've made a lot of sacrifices to allow me to do what I'm doing. And then it getting to the stage with my dad where it's like, realistically, I could have a more chilled out life working from home, doing some cut and glue customs. So he literally is at home working on shoes. So like he literally cuts up material. When that Netflix project came in, because of his like engineering, like more analytical brain, he did a lot of the measurements for that shoe. But he's got a lot more of like a chilled out kind of relationship with the company, whereas my mum's balls deep in it. Like she is like, every day she's working hard, and obviously because it's your mum, I always think like when you're at that weird stage where the company's doing well but you don't know how long it's going to last, you've not really got anything to go off, you can't look at last year's figures, you kind of just like trying to just generate something. I was quite lucky that my mum was happy to take a low wage at the start but bring so much to the business that all those things now, like I'm just so fucking grateful for that shit, and I just want to make sure now that I blow out the park so while they're still alive they can have like a sick life, because I feel like they've my dad always says like you should always better your parents because they're like taking you to a certain stool and you should obviously do better than that, and I just want to smash it now so that I can fully like do bits for them, because they've never struggled financially. They're very, very financially sound people, and they've brought me up like that. Like I'm very frugal, but at the same time, like I want to give them good shit.
Yeah. So in that respect, like, do you have a specific goal for the business? Like, do you think it's more? Is it more? I guess. It doesn't have to be one or the other, but is it more a passion business, or is it more I want to get it to this so I can make this amount of money? Or is it a bit of both?
Bit of both. I think one of the reasons like why it's done so well is because I've worked so hard at it, because it's a passion. So it's not one of those things where it's like it's never been difficult, it's not difficult now. And like I am actively always trying to scale it, so like I'm very bullish and aggressive with that, but I'm also mindful that we do have a peak, and that peak like constantly is like weighing like this. And I think at the moment now we're at a good size where when it's quiet, we've got a lot still to be doing, but fundamentally I need more people. The only downside to that is it's really hard to find those like skilled people, and it's just a case of that balancing act, but still scaling. So we're going to be taking those people on. We've done an apprenticeship scheme recently with Juice Academy, and that's been amazing. Like the girl that we took on, just like she was a graduate, so she did a psychology degree, but then in the psychology degree she realized that she wanted to do like more of the marketing side, so she came on she then went down the apprenticeship route. She's from down south, but she's like in Manny now, so she's like come on, and even just seeing that in terms of like someone that's not an artist that purely works on the back end of the business, and seeing how much that can help getting different eyes that are maybe not in the direct industry. I just think the team that we've got is amazing, and I just think there's so much more that we can do and so much more that we can build, that it's not a case of, I'm happy with this amount of money, because financially we're a very sound company and we make good profit, but I do think there's so much more to be done that we've not done yet, and it's just that balancing act of like allowing me to have enough time to see it all as a scope. Because I think one thing that I struggle with at the moment that I'm getting really frustrated with is we're all in the same room, and like I can go out into the meeting rooms and stuff and work, but I find myself like getting so distracted that like it's just this whole balancing act of like making sure I've said
distracted by what?
Just everyone in there. So like there's literally all young people in there having fun, and like I think one major thing with customs, which is like a blessing but also like a curse now for me, is that customs is like you're painting, and when you're in the flow state of painting you can be fully concentrating on it, but you can fully have a conversation. And that's why I was telling you earlier, like before we started the pod, that I used podcasts to learn, because I was able to literally sit there 4 to 6 hours a night after I'd finished uni and just listen to amazing minds like this speak it like one-to-one and give like different bits of like just different bits of advice and different bits about like their journey. And I think like because I've had like 4 to 5 years of that, it takes you to like your learning is increased. But what you've also got to remember is then if someone's in the studio and they can just have a conversation, so it's like you're constantly getting like swayed into just like general conversation, funny like jokes and shit. And it's just that whole, because I'm quite self-critical, so like there's always these things that I want to improve in the business, that it's never fully perfect. And even when we've had our like huge months and our low months, there's still so many gaps that I want to like fill up, because
it's funny you say that though, about getting distracted, because I think one of the hardest things, and I think a lot of my mates can relate, because even like with big scale, at least the way I've always approached it is it's like fully remote. I've had an office in the past, but with Adam actually from episode 7, but then we sacked it off because it was like, didn't really feel like we needed it. And now I work from home, have done for like the past 2 years, which I love the flexibility of, but then there's a bit of me that sometimes thinks, oh, fuck me, like definitely long term, I'd like to be in an office with 20 people.
Yeah, it's amazing, mate. It actually
is. Because, I just think one of the biggest challenges of entrepreneurship, at least for me, is just the loneliness.
Yeah. See, I've never felt that because I've always had like home in a house with everyone where I can bounce shit off. Tom, like now, like, I fully get that. So this is one big question. So when I've listened to the pod, do you know when you've had your like 500k rev months and you're like hitting big numbers?
Yeah.
What were your overheads at that point? Did you not have an office or anything at that point, or even employees?
Yeah. So when I was, the biggest months I've ever done in ecom would have been April, May, June 2020, when I was running both brands just before shit went tits up with Neon. So I would have been doing 1.5 million a month. Yeah. Like in total, which is mad. That was like peak.
Crazy figures for the team size.
Yeah, but to give you an idea on that, I mean, this won't be entirely accurate, but like overhead wise, it would have been a team of people in the Philippines, which is probably like 30 grand a month, which is mainly like customer service, back end stuff. Maybe another like 10 grand on like softwares, like Shopify, email marketing, all that sort of shit. But the biggest single thing was marketing. Like I would have been spending 700 grand a month on marketing. Yeah. Which is where you get the Amex points from at the time.
Yeah, I was going to say that. It's all good for cost of goods sold in it.
Yeah, it was literally me in a kitchen.
Yeah.
Me and Freddie.
The team in Thailand that are working, were they good? Was that like a...
Yeah, so...
How did that work?
This is a mad thing looking back. Like, I reckon in that kitchen, like I said this before off camera, like we were probably doing the most revenue like per like ounce of body weight in any fucking business in the world, in terms of like people actually in the same room, because it was literally just me from my business and then Fred. But I didn't have, at that time, didn't have a single actual employee. I had like a lot of freelancers and agencies. It was very lean and very
it's mad, bro.
Just informal, I suppose, which has pros and cons.
Well, there is cons to the culture side of things, definitely.
Oh, massively.
And even just motivation. Do you find you're very good at self-motivating?
Yeah, I think what it comes from is, for me, and a lot of like most of the like ecom guys I know, and like ecom communities on like Twitter and stuff, I think it's because you can literally quite easily, in my opinion, build an ecom business of some sort, so like 7 figures revenue run rate with like literally just you and a laptop in certain markets. Because like drop shipping, for example, you can do that. Like I was doing that when I was 22, like 500k a month drop shipping, like while I was in Bali, barely even working. Like that was back when Facebook was a lot cheaper, but so it's kind of weird. And then going on a bit of a rant here, but like I sometimes think back to, I think it came up in another conversation. I thought like, I think it was Dragon's Den. I was watching Dragon's Den or whatever it was, and they were talking about, I forget the business, but the point was they had like a bunch of employees and whatever, and they were doing like 500 grand revenue a year. And I was like, fucking hell, like Neon did like 9 million in the first year. I mean, that was ridiculous, by the way, and it went very wrong. But even Midnight, which is still a good, never had any of those issues, was doing like 2.5 million a year run rate. And it had crazy. 2 customer service people and me.
When I was looking at it, literally, I would have never have known that. Like, I remember looking at it thinking, so these have got a similar amount of like social following as us. The back end's probably similar. I thought, because this is obviously when Joe was
way more scalable probably than a lot of yours.
Yeah, definitely.
Is in terms of like how easily I got to those numbers. Because it was literally just ads.
You were buying
and content.
You was buying this rope stuff. It's not rope. The LED stuff.
2 very different businesses. Yeah. I mean, Midnight was a traditional buy stock from a supplier, put it in a warehouse.
Did you design that?
Yeah, I designed all that shit myself.
So you set up costs and then it's just rinse and repeat after that.
Yeah, like literally.
So was there Neon custom?
Neon was completely different model.
Right.
So it was custom drop shipping basically.
Mad,
It's
bro.
a similar model to you, ultimately. But it was.
So how could you scale it to that level? Like, how did you do that? So internally, obviously, you've got the Thailand team that are asking, right, I'm thinking like for my bar,
in the Philippines, in
the Philippines, sorry, yeah. So you've got like a bar that approaches you and say, right, I want a sign saying that's going to go in my bar. I just want one, but I want it to say
it was chaos.
What was the process of an order?
Well, I mean, literally for the first month, I did it all myself. I mean, 'cause I would always do that in any new business.
What was that process though?
I mean, it started off quite literally. I mean, from the first day, I mean, it grew super quick, but obviously on the first day, didn't have any orders. It wasn't big on the first day, is what I'm saying. So it was literally me on DMs or whatever.
Yeah.
I would make a PDF. I'd make the fucking design in Photoshop myself, make the mock-up, send it to the supplier, get the price, blah, blah.
Would that just be a vector file?
That was the very basic. And then it became a Google spreadsheet with, you know, a CRM, like Gorgeous, with automated like flows and shit. Gorgeous is like Help Scout, whatever, people will know if they're watching. And then it became like a fancier, like custom spreadsheet, basically using Airtable, which is another software. And at this point, it wasn't me doing any of that. It was just like, it eventually became a team of literally, I think at max, like 25 people in the Philippines, which had like departments and shit.
Right,
there was designers,
I was going to say
customer service people,
so
and then logistics people.
Right, bro.
It's pretty fucking complicated, to be fair.
And how did you come across them? Because I didn't even know those things existed. I thought that's the whole part of like going through that journey of having to build internal processes. Did they approach you? Did they realise that your business was scaling?
This is an agency called Go to Impact, and there's loads of agencies like this. This is just an overseas staffing agency, so they're an American company, and I'd used them for midnight customer service before, and I just went to them. I've got this thing; it's growing ridiculously quick.
Yeah.
I mean, I already had, I think, a few VAs that I'd hired prior to that, and then I just went to this agency. It was like, let's build a team around this. But it was very scrappy. I mean, Jesus Christ. I think this is one thing people forget as well. Like, even though, granted, that went tits up, blah blah blah, like whatever. You can there's a load of shit still online calling me a scam artist, whatever. I'm over it now. Like, go watch episode 1. Yeah. But the point is, like, it's not just. And this is what's weird about a lot of like e-com communities and like content is like they just talk about running ads. Which is obviously the opposite to what you're saying, but like people forget that for anything there has to be a decent back end, and I think it's what a lot of drop shippers sleep on.
100%.
And it was so hard for Neon, and I think that market is always going to struggle because the nature of the product is, I mean, there are brands that are doing much better than I ever was in terms of like the fulfillment side of things when shit went wrong, but because it's such complicated back end, like custom products. I mean, to answer your question, it was about 70-30, like 70% were just like stock designs. So like, you know, quotes and shit. They were still made to order though, because that was the model.
Yeah, of course.
Because like, it didn't make sense even at that scale or stage to buy stock because the amount of SKUs there were, there's literally like 1 million SKUs on the website. If you work out all possible combinations of like colour, size, design. Yeah. And then the others were custom ones where there was a few different options. People would either send in like a design from like a bar, and that's where you generally get your bigger orders from, like £1,000 plus. And then there was also the custom designer, which was custom made for the website. So it was bloody complicated, I must say. Like,
but I'm so shocked that they did so much, to be fair. Like, even their back end process and building out a team of designers to do that, mega that. Did you ever go and visit them? Do you know anything about them? Like,
never went to visit them.
What other brands do they work with? Is there anyone else that I'd like to know about?
I mean, Go to Impact that I use is an American company. It's just a staffing agency for people overseas, but generally in the Philippines, because that's where a lot of companies find staff because culturally and a lot of them are educated for like a Western audience. So never went to visit them, sadly. It was kind of mad. I think it got to like 25, 30 people at one point.
But that's also the scary thing that like when it did come like bad, that you are on your own, aren't you? And bro, I'd mentally I wouldn't even know what that feels like.
Not very fun at all. And that's why, I mean, going forward, like,
you would like a team.
Yeah, I mean, well, I've got investors on board for this next thing, which I've spoke about a bit in the previous episode, but the main thinking there was to have experience and like people to speak to. More than the money side of things.
Literally. I work so much better when I can bounce ideas off someone, and I can give them what I'm thinking. They can dissect it and give me a question back. And that, like, everyone that you see around me is like, no one's like a yes man. And that's what I think, like, I love that collaborative process of like, what do you think to this? I thought about this, but what about that? And then they're like, oh, but have you thought about that? Like, that collaborative process I've used throughout uni, like, family, girlfriend. Like, Robin is like, because obviously I've been with my girlfriend long term. Like, I was with my girlfriend before I even started the company, so I've been with her like 7 years, and like, she's like amazing because she is just not a yes woman, would you say? Yes woman at all. And like, my mum's the same. Kelvin, who I work with on a daily, like, I just think that whole collaborative effort of like pinging ideas back and forth is just so good. Like, I love it. But then obviously it comes with its downfall in terms of like, when you get on with someone so well, how do you then not stop the conversation and crack on? I sometimes struggle with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I get a load of messages off the back of this pod line, and there's a lot of similar themes, and even like people that I know but like not close friends, but because we don't live in the same place, whatever. Like, and they'll message me and like, the general theme is like, yeah, being like, entrepreneurship is fucking lonely, like particularly online entrepreneurship, like, and everyone glamorizes, and I've done it myself, and there's great parts of like the freedom, time and location freedom. Like, there's a lot of benefits not having an office and an in-house team, which, you know, primarily keep your overheads lower, you know, you don't have to be in one place and so on. But as I get older, you start to think like, it's as much about like
the memories and
the community and like
it is
the day to day as it is about the potential end of year result or you know, exit in the business. Because like, I mean, maybe that's as I've got older, like a few things I've realized. Like, firstly, I don't want to be traveling in Bali all the time, which I used to do and I loved, and I think there's a time and a place for that, but first I don't want to do that anymore. And secondly, I think, I don't know, like maybe in the past year in particular, like, I've realised like making the money is great, but if there's no one like, I mean, like if there's no one there to enjoy the process or the fruits of that potential labour, whether that's team members, family, friend, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, then it's all fucking pointless in the first place anyway.
Yeah, like that's one of the biggest buzzes I get in being able to, because you can think of it as one way as like, shit, I've got 11 people's fucking mouths to feed and rent to pay, or you can view it as when you see that person then go out and get themselves something, buy something, like rent somewhere sick, get something sick, you look at it and you actually feel like I've provided that, I've helped like get that, and like that is like such a sick feeling to know that like say even for instance in our team, like we're like a family because we've worked together now on such a intimate level, and like it's not like a 9-to-5 job, like we do fucking grind, and like we're all going through it together. So like when we have a win, it is like a cultural win, it's not just like my win, do you know what I mean? And I love that side of it, and that's also one of the things when we're saying about like having this balance. It's like I don't want to mess that up, I don't want to scale too much and put people under too much pressure, because we're doing sick, and like we can, what I've done up to now has worked, and having this like rate of growth is like working, like, and I fully look at like your situation and just be like, wow, I would love to see crazy figures, but then I also think like I'd tarnish the company, and I've just got to grow. But that I took a lot from what's the guy that you know from uni with the paw portraits? Adam, bro, because his company's even similar to ours in terms of like the back end. Yeah, it is. And like that's just amazing. Like one of my boys, like one of my best mates who went to at uni, he's an entrepreneur as well, and he's like does it full time. He's got a print to order service company, but multiple realms to it, and one of them's like paw stuff. That he's just started, and the made to order custom shit but done at scale is just like
the beauty of what he's done, and what differs between the nail stuff and the shoes is there are literally billion-dollar companies like Printful and Printify which have the infrastructure designed for print on demand. So his fulfillment is basically flawless because it already exists, and you're leveraging a massive right. It's not like he's hired a bunch of blokes in a factory to print stuff. The graphic design wise though, outsources graphic design wise, I don't know his exact process, but it'd be similar to what I had to do with Neil. Like a lot of it was you can automate a bit of it, but it's still like files and shit. So that's another thing for us, that's like you've got this dilemma of, if I really wanted to, I could set up a factory elsewhere where
the cost of living is a lot cheaper and the cost of work is a lot cheaper. And I could teach them just like I've taught the team at here, and we'd make far more profit. But I think what I love about it is that, like, basically how we work is the people that create orders are freelancers, and they then work for the different brands that we work with when we collaborate, so they'll invoice them separate, but then fundamentally they work on all our orders. And the great thing about that is, as we scale and as we charge more and as we get more orders, they also grow too. So there's not really a cap on how much they can earn. It's just about grinding and getting your head down. And some people work on a part-time basis, some people work on a tunnel vision, I'm fucking gonna make as much money as I possibly can. But because of that, we do give a lot to the artist. Like, the artist is a massive portion of our like rev that comes in. Well, just even per order. So it's this balancing act of, like, are you greedy but you've not got the culture? And I'm not saying you're greedy, by the way. I'm just saying, like, in terms of, like, I could sell, but I'm meaning, like, I could be greedier and make more profit. But I genuinely think that, like, the culture and what we're building is also bringing in a lot of these brand works, because we're creating, like, a team that people want to watch, want to be involved with, want to. I think we've got something good. And I just think that, although I'm constantly in this mindset of, like, scale, I think the way I'm doing it is right. I've just got to keep frugal and keep making sure that I'm not underdoing it, you know, not taking the chances when they're there.
Yeah, definitely. And do you think having your parents involved, like, is that challenging, or is that?
It was when I lived with them. Like, so, I bought a gaff last year, so I don't live with them. I live with my girlfriend. But when I was living with them, it is, because I think one thing is I'm quite, like, confrontational. So, like, and you can imagine them with your parents. Bearing in mind, it's mostly my mum. My dad doesn't try and get involved too much, because, like, my mum's doing a good enough job that my dad's kind of, like, he's involved in all the chats, but he doesn't need to be a third person in the kind of debates that we go through, because I'm very bullish and my mum's very not. So we're constantly in this battle of, like, I want to do this, no, we've not got enough money. I want to do this, no, we're not got, you know, like that yin and yang. But at the same time, like, when I so going back to the questions, like, with my mum and dad, yes, but I think you've got to learn how to do the relationships. And you could say the same with, like, your friends. Like, I've literally got 4 friends that work at the business. So you could look at that and say, oh, that's problematic. And at the start it was, I used to pussy out of stuff. I used to not say things when they should have been said, because of I wanted to keep the relationship. But then what I quickly realised in learning leadership is that there is a way to do it and there's a way to go about it. And the more you do that, the easier it gets. And I've had some horrible conversations. Like, I've had to let people go that are, like, close friends and shit. And I've had some horrible times that have, like, made me mentally low. But at the same time, I come back and I rejig how we're looking at it. And it's like, it's just entrepreneurship. Like, it comes with these bad things that come from whatever route you go down. Like, you could say, oh, I want the culture, but I could say, yeah, but when you take on these people, you've also got to take on the stress of them, and then the day-to-day relationship
everyone
with them.
Everyone probably wants an element of what they don't have in it, because, like,
exactly, bro,
you know, there's probably people watching that I don't have a 9 to 5, and they're like, oh, I wish I had the freedom. But then I genuinely look at some people I know, my brother included, who has a 9 to 5, like, really good job, but like, it's different. And I'm, like, fucking jealous sometimes of
the ease and
not jealous, but like, I think that'd be nice to have, like,
out, you don't take it home with you.
Because that's the hardest thing, I think, especially working from home, which I find very hard. I'm trying to give myself more time away from a screen, to be honest.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it, because
that's been the hard. It's just a hard thing of working. I think everyone that works for themselves can relate. I mean, at least I don't work from my bedroom or anything. It's like a different room and shit. But and your girlfriend.
Do you not work well then? You don't work well from home? Obviously, you've always done it. I mean, so clearly you do, because you scaled the business.
I do work well. I probably work better in a way, because that's the thing. Like, I don't have to fucking commute. Like, I would complain if I had to commute.
Then again, though, I bought a house that is literally like 5-minute walk from my house. Kelvin, who's from Sheffield but moved to Manchester, he moved to a street opposite the studio. Lola is in a flat opposite the studio. Like, we live so close to it that there's only 3 or 4 people that really have a big commute. Like, Em's got a big commute. She's on the other side of Manchester in Ashton. but we're still very like, we're right next to the train station. It's really easy to get into the studio.
Yeah, I mean, I probably, if I was gonna, so
you'd have to get somewhere local.
Yeah, like I definitely see myself in the future having like a Soho office, and I get the tube in, like
but it's
local. But
yeah,
I quite like the idea of going to an office now, to be honest, especially after COVID. I mean, like for the past 2 years, pretty much everyone, even people that are normally in big offices, have been at home. I think it's only just gone back to like
big change with that.
Has it gone back fully now? I don't know, like nearly there.
Well, it didn't at one point, but it has now. Because like Robin, my girlfriend, she was working from home, and she's mad productive from home. Like I don't know how she does it. I couldn't do it, but she works really, really well from home. But yeah, I just couldn't do that.
Yeah. Do you think, speaking about this before, it fucking comes up in my pods. Do you think having that long-term relationship has helped you?
100%. More. Obviously, you don't know it at the time because you don't know where you're going to take it and how much you're going to scale. But 100%, like one thing is with like me and Robin is like we've grown together. So like when I met her at college. She'd been to an all-girls school. I'd obviously been to like the local high school. So we didn't have any mutual friends. She was listening to like even like 1975. I was listening to rap music. Like we were pretty opposite people, but like over the years we've like become so entwined like together, and like she is obviously the person that I'm like right the way she went to uni, I went to uni, we were seeing each other every week, like making sure like I wouldn't be with someone if I didn't know that it was 100% like here. And I think she brings so much as an entrepreneur to my life because she just makes things calmer, simpler. Like I live with her, like we bought a house together, and like she does so much. Like we've got a dog, I only do the dog walks in the morning. Like it's like all these things where she kind of like builds like a cushion around me to look out for me, and like before that my mum did it. So it's like you kind of look at it in different ways where it's like I'm quite lucky that I've got those people around me, but at the same time you can't really just like expect that. I've just got lucky with Robin. Yeah,
do you know what it is? Because I fucking always bring this shit up, but I think it's so relevant. Like I've found, I think it's maybe like there's definitely a difference in like central London culture compared to York, where I'm from, or just up north, broadly speaking. Of like, I think people settle down later
here
in London. I don't know if it's a central London thing, whatever, but like other people have said that to me as well. Because like I've got mates back home that've got kids. Like, well, not many of them, to be fair. Like one of my best mates from back home, and I thought he had a kid early, to be fair, and whatever. But like, and like, I know people from school that have, you know, quite a lot of people that have like properly settled down, like bought houses and so on. Whereas in London, I know like nearly no people that are in relationships almost. It's kind of a weird one, but maybe that's just and
it's the culture that it brings, though.
I don't know, because I've discussed this with my entrepreneurial mates so many times, and well, I tell a lie because I was in a relationship which I'm still not over, by the way, like at all. My mate was in a relationship recently which ended, so but we've debated this, and some mates are older, some are younger, whatever, but I mean, there's no right or wrong, is there? I think it comes down to like...
There's definitely no right or wrong.
The debate's centered around like, is it better to have a girlfriend or not if you're in the trenches?
It's all depends on the person.
I always end up bringing this up because it's fucking therapy for me. Because I've just gone through...
I do think though, with London, like I grew up obviously wanting to do graphic design, and always in my head I wanted to move to London. I love London. Whenever I come, I love it. I love what it does to me as a person, like the fast-paced life. It works for me. When I lived in Sheffield, I lived in an apartment in the city centre. I tried to be as city as I can, and where I live now is very built up. Like I live in Salford, so Salford's like it's weird, my area. So like you've got so in M28, like Worsley where I live, on one side 1 mile to your left you've got Little Hulton, which is known as like pretty like rough, deprived area, and like you'll see a lot of like just like that's where like the Manchester riots and shit were. But then on the other side you've got a mile down the road, literally a mile, sometimes even shorter than that, and like Fred Doan lives there, who's like the owner of Betfred, and he's like in the top 50 richest people in the UK. And like I've seen that growing up because I've kind of been in the middle. So like I've seen the super wealth, I've seen the low. So I'm very content where I am because I've not got that. I'm still a small fish in a big pond where I am. Yeah. Whereas I think like what you're stating in terms of like people living in like more suburban areas, I do get that, like how people just naturally settle down. But my personal opinion on London is because the cost of living is so high, people have got to go out and grind. So it's one of those people where if you're in the trenches, a bird's in her trenches. It's like, when do you really get that time to actually like build something together? Because you're so deep in it that it's like, to be here, you've got to be quite solo, because it's kind of like dog eat dog, and you just got to be lucky. Like, you found it, do you know what I mean? Like, you found a girl that you wanted to like settle down with, and you moved in here with her. So it is possible, but I think that the likelihood of it is so much less. Yeah,
do you think? Yeah. And then, because I mean, I definitely find, I think I was more focused. I don't know, it's weird. I've spoken, it's probably just a bad day to ask me.
Yeah, fully.
Like, I've spoken about it on a few pods, and I just say how it is because it's just the fucking truth. I'm definitely not over that relationship. So if she's watching, don't know how you feel. But yeah, like I think I said before, I felt distracted having a girlfriend, and like now I could focus on my own shit. But then the flip side of that is
you're more distracted single.
I feel more distracted single because you feel like
you never win.
I feel like I should be out going on dates, otherwise.
Yeah.
I mean, there's two sides to everything, but I think for me, if it's the right girl, which is ultimately the question.
Yeah.
If it's the right relationship, it's what Iman said in episode 14 as well. Like, the levels, so fucking true.
Yeah.
If you're with someone that you mutually support each other, and it just works, it doesn't feel like effort.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel toxic in any way.
Yeah.
Which then I think it's the best thing ever. Like, I'm definitely a sucker for. I say I'm a sucker for relationships, having had one serious one. But like, it's definitely a nice thing.
Yeah, and I think as well, it takes the pressure off going out and meeting new people, because I think when that side of your life is you're fully content, you can absolutely lock in on work. And like, I'm so fulfilled by Robin.
That's what it is, yeah.
So fulfilled by Robin. Like, I don't like, I'm not active on Tinder, I'm not active in the DMs, I'm not trying to pursue multiple people because I'm so locked in on her. And don't get me wrong as well, like when we talk about like settling down and shit, it's just because like Robin was sharing a bedroom with her little sister when she was like 22. So it's like it was a ticking thing. I was working with mum and dad. We've got enough money that we can purchase a house. So it's like,
I think
it's like that whole thing of like,
would love to do that.
Yeah.
I just haven't.
Yeah. Just finding a person though, innit?
Personal time or situation to do that.
Yeah, that's life though, innit? That's the whole journey of it. Like,
there's probably an element of people. Maybe I thought the grass is greener being single, and now I'm single. I think the grass is greener not being single.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But even my issue, like I've had it in the past where I've taken Robin for too much for granted, because I'm so locked in on work that I just expect her to always be there. And like, we have a really close relationship, so like we see each other a lot. We've not got like even when we were both at uni, like we see each other a lot and we talk a lot. But even then, like I've been like very selfish, because that's just what you do as an entrepreneur. Like, you're so locked in on something, and there's so much stress and there's so much risk that you don't want to think of anything else other than that. So she's constantly at me for being on my phone too much, not giving her enough time and stuff. And that's just the whole balancing act of like being in a relationship or not.
So stressed last year, and like looking back now,
can't be good for her, innit? Can't be good.
I do regret a lot of that.
You're not giving your all to someone when you're in that mindset. I've been in that mindset before.
Yeah, it wasn't even that.
You're a different person.
I was a bit of a cunt sometimes because I was so stressed, and I don't think I was honest with her about how stressed I actually was.
Yeah, which is also probably eating you up inside, which is then making you even different.
Now it fucking eats me up a bit, because I think, oh Christ, like, jeez. But
you've got a lot of working out to do by the sounds of it. We've got a lot of thinking to do, and a lot of...
definitely.
I think communication with that shit, though, from speaking to you about it, I think genuinely, like, the most you're going to get about it is communicating and then coming away and thinking about it further. Because Yeah,
I mean, I don't know what I'm getting at, really. I'm just fucking being honest. Like, it is quite confusing, especially when you live somewhere that you used to live with someone else, and it's like...
Yeah, and got the dog as well.
Yeah, but there's like a constant reminder of my relationship. I don't know. I don't know what'll happen. We'll see. I don't know if it's right for either of us, but
I think one main thing is, though, you've got a lot to fucking think about. Like, you're in the trenches on a business which is like at the pinnacle of something so special, and then you've also got this, which is like, think how quick this has taken off and got legs. Like, as soon as I watched that first one, I locked in. It came at a sick time, actually, because I was working on orders because of Christmas. And I was literally painting, just listening. It felt like the good old days when I was in my uni flat, just listening to podcasts of conversations and shit. I love this pod. Good.
I think this pod has started to build an audience because I'm just so honest about everything. And yeah, like this is a classic case of like I really enjoy working on it, so that's why it's been so easy to be consistent.
Yeah.
And it's obviously therapy for me, not just speaking about girls, but speaking about everything.
And it's like what we said, the main thing as well is that you're doing a business related podcast, but because you have taken it to levels, you can ask the right questions and actually like understand what that means and stuff like that I think that's why this pod's so special, because not only have you got a sick story, but you bring out good stories and you have sick guests. So it's like that whole thing of like, sorry,
I'll take it. No, that's the idea. But also the reason I fucking bring up like family, girls, mental health quite a lot is because I think especially as an entrepreneur, but in life, like that affects like the business performance, and I've learned that the hard way and the good way, but when it's been up and down and vice versa. And it isn't just, I don't think it's as black and white as you fucking go to work, you know, you work on your business, and like
it's a lifestyle,
I've been in my head
really
all week about fucking what we were speaking about before, and it's taking me off the business. And that wasn't the case for 2 weeks prior. I was laser locked, and I'm thinking, oh fuck, because I also go through phases, and I'm sure everyone does, of being like, I'll have like a few weeks like with girlfriend before, now single, when I'm just like fucking like, I feel like David Goggins or some shit, like I'm smashing the gym, I'm like fully motivated, I'm having a great week. Then I don't know what it is, like literally this week I've just felt fucking off it.
Bro, that is literally how it works though, innit?
And I just haven't, I felt like super fucking anxious about everything. I haven't been sleeping properly.
Bro, that is, I think the month says a lot as well though. Like,
even though I've been smashing the gym, like it's just, even though like this new business is going exactly where I want it to go in terms of like 3 months ago to now, it's like, fuck, I'm like getting down about other shit. And like, I'm getting deep now, but I compare, do you ever look back like a year ago? I was like in your photos, but also just like, and then it makes you think. Because like a year ago, almost to the day, it was like the worst week of my life. Entrepreneurially, it was when like Neon was crashing down. I was getting literal hate messages on WhatsApp, like hundreds of death threats. It was fucked. Anyway, so like I look back at that and think, fuck, well, at least I got through that. Like I'm in a much better position, like financially and business wise, and like lack of stress wise. But it's almost like, fuck, there's I haven't got that much stress in business right now, because obviously like pre-revenue as well, like I'm sure there'll be more stress when I start scaling it up, but now I feel like my mind's trying to make problems that don't even exist with like my ex-girlfriend. Yeah,
that's one question that I had for you. So like in terms of like financials, I've had some like really, really good years, and I've always been financially very like frugal and sound. So like I know how to invest my money, and I know how to work my personal finances.
I definitely haven't been frugal in the past.
Well, this is what I mean. So like we're polar opposites in terms of how we have managed money and stuff. And did you leave Neon Beach because of like the how the project turned out in terms of the salary? Did that leave you in a position?
It don't matter. I just hear them buzzing.
Did that leave you in like terms financially quite sound? Like, are you living in London, got this flat, okay to be pre-rev?
Oh, 100% now. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just stressed last year because I didn't know what the fuck was going to happen, because the business went. I think I mentioned this in the first part, but I'll say it again briefly. Like the business literally went from having like 2 million quid in the bank in the business account, which I don't think I said before, but just full transparency. Which, by the way, I had like Amex debt and shit.
Yeah, of course, it's not
whatever. Like, but fucking, I was pretty caked. Like, I thought I'm a G. Like, do you know what I mean? I was getting a bit ahead of myself, and I'll be the first to say that. Looking back, like I had a Ferrari and a Range Rover in the garage, and and I'm not saying that to glow. I'm saying that because looking back now, I honestly feel like such a tit. Like, lot, bro. I could afford it, but it's just the mindset was different. I don't know what it was. I was going through a weird phase. Like, I really was. Like, it was a give me more. Like, I don't know what it was.
Even
I probably needed humbling in a lot of respects, if I'm honest.
Yeah, but
even though I'd made it all myself and I grinded and I built shit, like, I don't know, looking back as a character then, like, I'm definitely not proud of how I portray myself in certain ways.
I think it says a lot about you as a risk taker, and like how you was able to, you take risks, like you've got that like cutting edge where it's like, I want that, I'll do that, let's go, move on to the next. And like, I find that I'm super, super anxious financially. even when, like, now I'm like, if I'd have known that I would have left uni and be in the position that I am now, I'd be fucking like so happy with myself.
Yeah.
But what I've also realised is that, like, you buy a house, you like, I've spent money, and what you then find is, like, if you've not got passive income, this project or whatever project you're working on at the time, if that goes to zero, where does it leave you? Because I'm so conscious now that, like, because of everything that I've been through, I'm unemployable in my eyes. I never want to ever work for anyone. And being 24 and having that mindset is really fucking scary, because it's like, I don't want
That's
to...
so interesting.
Yeah, and so I'd look at you and be like,
I don't think
have you got a property portfolio? Have you got like a big stock portfolio? It's like, it scares me, because I'm like, bro, I could never like spend...
That's such an interesting point.
Yeah.
For me, the second half of this pod's good. Because you just got me thinking about so many things.
Yeah. It's sick though, because it shows the yin and yang. Like, you're the scaler who will take something to 100 mil.
I mentioned obviously the Neon situation. Yeah, it crashed out. It got bailed out by a private equity fund, which, by the way, was a massive learning experience in itself.
Yeah.
They bought 80% of the business, put me on a fat salary for 6 months, and then I sold the rest of my shares. That's what happened. So, yeah, I ended up quite all right given the situation. But, you know, if you'd have said that's what I was going to make a year prior, I'd have fucking laughed and spat on the floor and said, like, I honestly thought, because something I didn't mention, I think, with Neon, just quickly before I go on to my point, is about a month before shit went tits up, I'd been approached by this big private equity firm in Miami. Like, they came over to me and I was like, fuck, right, this is how you make 20 million quid.
Oh, okay.
And they were interested in potentially buying me out, or
the limited company that housed the two companies.
Yeah, so they were really interested in Neon, and I started seeing pound signs, thinking, all right, fuck me, give me 6 months, we'll do a deal here, and I'll be set for life. Like, that was honestly what I thought. Anyway, so that didn't happen because all that happened and shit. But it's funny, I was saying you're like worried about shit, like, or maybe like more frugal. Because for me, I think, do you know where it comes from? I thought about this. It comes from when I got into the dropshipping space. I was doing like 500k plus a month when I was like 22. Granted, it was like short term and stuff, but it always put me in the mindset of like, that scale is possible.
Yeah.
So then when I went into, like, even with Midnight, which was like a proper brand and shit, like, first year did £1 million because I thought if I do anything less than that, it's a joke. And I applied the same mentality, and then with Neon it was kind of even more.
Yeah. It's almost like I don't want to say like law of attraction shit, but you know, in terms of like your like kind of threshold and what you expect is so high that you almost just go straight to it. And because you've got that mindset, you then spend like that as well.
Yeah, I mean, what I will say though is, because, and I said it before, but like, especially in like the early dropshipping days, where looking back, I probably didn't realize how good it was at the time, in terms of like Facebook was so cheap, like it was like unusually profitable back then. And then, yeah, like, if, you know, I was 22 with a lot of money in the bank, and I did not spend it wisely. Yeah,
like, you didn't invest it, properties that'll now
nothing.
Pay you
Like,
back.
I think I mentioned this in the end of episode 20.
Yeah.
Like, I just didn't have the advice. I'm like, I don't know, like, who's going to give it to me?
Well, this is what
my accountant wasn't going to give it to me, because
also I found everything that I know. I found out through YouTube, Google, everything. So like, yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, how do you feel long term now though? Do you think when you get to that stage again, which you are going to?
Do you know what? Like, I genuinely, like, I don't worry about, you know, if this business goes wrong, I haven't invested in property. I literally think I'm gonna make, you know, 50 million quid from an exit.
Yeah.
Because, like, even if this next one went wrong, which I don't think it would go as wrong, but even if it doesn't go as big, like, I've said it before, like, you can't lose the experience and, like, obviously, like, I don't want to be fucking in the trenches so much when I'm 40. Like, you know, the plan has always been set for life by 30, whatever that is. You know, it's probably 10 million plus in my mind, probably less actually, but nicely set for life. So it's like, I don't know, like, I'm not scared to start from zero, because now as well, if I had to, because, like, there's so much opportunity and, like, money in, like, private markets and shit. I don't know, like, the fact you're saying I'm unemployable, I wouldn't even cross my mind ever to go and get a 9 to 5. I would actually rather die.
But then, because you've had such a, like, a taste of life, for me. What do you do though when you've got less money? Like, if you were to then spend it all and go proper dolo?
Yeah, I mean, well,
do you know what I mean?
I have intentionally I cut back on shit in like the past year. I mean, still live in 6 flats in Central
naturally
London,
you will do though, won't you?
I guess the only biggest difference really is I got rid of the cars.
Yeah.
But I don't really miss that, to be honest. I was never driving in Central London, so there's not been any drastic change in that respect, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's probably just now, like I said in episode 22, I'm getting good with these episodes. I mentioned to Alex, who has actually made it a proper wedge. I probably just respect money more a bit now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I'm not. But I think that makes it more. Like I want to scale more, but I'd probably just. I'd be on top of every penny a bit more.
Yeah, I feel like I've grown up in a household that were very
rather than like plastered together. Is probably what I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I've grown up in a household which has been very money paranoid, and like I'm a lot more like bullish and a lot more of a risk taker than my mum and dad. But they've also taught me like it's not what you earn, it's how you spend it. And obviously I've got to a stage where I know NBC I can't really get an exit out of that, because it's kind of like it's not like a Stella McCartney where obviously it's person and name led, but at the same time it's still very trend orientated, and obviously we can move with the trends, but at the same time I kind of know that in the back of my head, so I know like long term I've got to kind of keep leveling up and elevating, but at the same time I know that the assets that I've got, the overheads that I've got, everything that I like own is still not enough where I've got a passive income that'll cover everything. So like I've still not built my.
Does that matter if you enjoy the everyday? Because like
100%, I think it does.
Do you think it does though?
Yeah, because
I'm at about something that will never really affect you.
So I'm at my very, very most creative when I'm not chasing the bag and I'm like thinking purely creative. So if I have my foundation set where I know like that those 7 houses, my portfolio brings in this. My passive income from my stock portfolio brings in this, and I know I've set it so my outgoings are pretty much covered. Imagine what that does to you in terms of like your growth mentally. But
I actually think a little bit on the flip side, and I don't think that there's a right or wrong. Like my mentality has always been go all in on trying to make like 20 million by 30.
I love that though.
Like big money, because then you can put that in at 5% in anything, and you set for life on $1 million a year. Like we're not talking like $5,000 a month. Right?
No, I love that.
And like my argument potentially, maybe it's probably not right. I'm not definitely the right guy to give advice on all this, but like surely if you or one person is, like in the back of their mind, they're always saying, I can't push this quite hard enough because I need to make sure this is covered.
It's not
Whereas
necessarily
actually, if you went laser focused, like fucking God mode for like 3 years, to get it to an exit where you can make millions liquid, and then you are set for life no matter what.
I love that, and that's where sometimes I think like, right, shit, I'm in the wrong industry, because I know I'm not going to have that yet, and I know long term that's where I'd go.
I think you could as well though.
Do you think?
I think you think about it wrong.
But one thing I would say though is I'm not thinking like frugal. Like I travel a lot. Like I was losing my hair at 22. Fucking my shit was looking so bad. So I got a hair transplant. Like if I need this to spend the dough, I'll spend the dough. And like it's not that like I'm too frugal that I don't live a good life. Like I do live a good life. Yeah. But what I would say is like, yeah, it's not what you earn, it's how you spend it. And like I could go and absolutely flash out and get something mad, like a mad whip like that, but at the same time,
that's the first thing I ever did.
I know, and bro, I can't wait for that day. But I feel like I need to have my foundation set before I fully go and do that. Yeah. And it is a paranoid mindset, and you could say
I definitely see pros and cons to both. So I definitely
But I think living here is fucking mentally wise so sick, because you are like surrounded by people that are of that same mindset, whereas I've got a lot of people around me that aren't of that kind of mindset. So you've kind of got to have your network that is kind of, you're having the conversations like what we're having now, and then you've got other like you because I've got a lot of childhood friends like Ali, who's an entrepreneur, who's got sick business, always been creative. Like we bounce ideas off all the time. So I've got people that I've grown up with that are in that mindset and do that. But then I've had to go and find my network of people outside of where I live because of kind of you get like this, like you can't have this sort of conversation with someone who's never done it, because they don't understand the upset, they don't understand the issues you might be going through.
Yeah.
And not only that, when you're in like a relatively good situation, you also don't really want to talk about it that much, because like what good is that doing if they're then not in a situation that you're in, that you don't want to have that kind of relationship. So you end up not speaking about it, and then it's like you've got to lean on your girlfriend, you've got to lean on like well, for me it was like my mum.
Yeah.
So I had to go out and find that network, whereas I think for you, bro, it's fucking sick being here. Like,
yeah, I mean, yeah, I've very intentionally found that over the years though as well, and now it's just led me to being here. But yeah, I do agree completely.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's all relative. It's all whatever path you take. I feel like all this, everything we've spoken about has been like kind of like we've had these little crosshairs where it's like, right, yeah, both paths are kind of lead you to one or another.
Yeah, very true. Right, I want to wrap things up briefly. We could probably go for fucking 3 hours, but people get bored. It's good shit. Yeah, the second half of this is definitely a banger. I kind of asked you this before, but like, where do you see it going then? Like, if you had to say like 5 years, what is the vision? Is it clear? Do you have a clear vision for that sort of time period? Yeah.
So I think what we spoke about earlier in terms of the shoe, like a separate brand that can be scaled, sold. I think also like what we're doing now in terms of brands, those projects are only getting bigger. So God knows where that'll take us. Potentially working with Nike and other brands directly. Like we've worked with them all on small projects, but like we can take it further than that. Obviously with the NFT shit, you've got royalties, you've got all these things that can really build out like long-term wealth outside of just your one bit of creativity. Because I think at the moment our issue is that we create something that takes time to earn money, whereas like the luxury for like when you scale it is that like obviously I don't have to make orders anymore, so I've kind of done that in my team, but at the same time I've not fully been able to take it there. So continue with that, continue like pushing that, obviously make the shoe, and then just see where else extra. I think there's still loads to do. I think it's more just a case of like the team that we've got now, like people like Kelvin. Like I met Kelvin in my final year at uni. He was working at Sports Direct in the like graphic design team. He came into my uni course but was able to join the final year because he's done like a foundation degree. He's quite a bit older than me, so like he'd been in industry. Anyway, hit it off, worked on loads of projects together in the final year. He ended up moving to Manchester to come and work full time for NBC, and he's taken us to a next level in terms of visuals. So he does all our videography and stuff like that, and I think that now is where we want to go. I want to take it into more of, because we have got something so special with the team, I want to kind of I want to monetize that. I want to bring in those people, and also that'll trickle down to them as well in terms of being like the part of the NBC team and people wanting to watch what we get up to. So we've spoken about vlogs, we've spoken about stuff like that, and that will all build out the brand. And then just continue to take on really high level like young creatives and just see where we can take it, and might be having this conversation in a year's time where it's in a completely different landscape, but I'm for sure. I'm happy where it's going. It's just obviously months like this where the e-com side takes an absolute drop and you just like shit your pants all of a sudden. But we're
January's shit for everyone, let's be honest.
Yeah, but we run the company sound
in the
like
UK it's a shit month.
Yeah, fully. But with the help of my mum, we run the company sound, so we're nowhere near any financial issues. We run it sound, and so I think it's just more of a case of making sure that everyone just builds with us, like everyone that's working in the team, making sure that we're taking on good people and just see where it goes. Never, no thoughts to have physical stores.
Right.
Even when the shoe thing pops off, the shoe brand, I'm not game for that. I just think like when I look at it, the overheads that it brings in compared to the actual, like I could have invest in a bigger studio that would have more benefit to the people that are working in the company than the people experiencing it. And I think what we'll do from that is just pop-ups. So, like how Represent do, where they'll have like small little events that kind of have almost like activations, where they've got a little bit of a culture element to them as well as just coming and purchasing shit.
Yeah, definitely. All right, last question, which I've started asking everyone. One bit of advice for yourself looking back. 3 bits of advice. It generally tends to be one long answer. 3 bits of advice for yourself when you started, based on what you know now. What would it be?
Don't go to uni. Full stop. Don't go in the first year. So I'd say don't do that, because I think it's going to save a lot of time. And you can go and see your mates on a weekend, like go live in their gaff and party on the weekends. So I'd say that. I'd say continue to not scale like too aggressively, because I think now looking back at it, it's worked well. And I think as well to have made earlier plays like this shoe earlier, but obviously we're here now, and I was just too deep in the business at the time to have other projects going on. Like I said at the start, I'm not very good at having multiple projects all at once. I end up not doing one thing well enough. So yeah, and then retire my mum and dad, and we'll be cushy.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah,
sick. Right, well, I enjoyed that. It's definitely therapeutic as usual, particularly certain parts. Yeah, if you're enjoying the pod, drop a sub, recommend it to a friend, and yeah, just fucking stick around, because we got episodes every week, and hopefully it's remaining interesting and getting better every time. I think we need an L-shaped sofa, by the way, for those that are watching. It's always, I get neck pains doing these fucking pods.
I'm comfy here, but yeah.
Whereas like, yeah, an L-shape would be good. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. See you in the next episode. Cheers for watching. Peace.